I think a lot of us are very curious to see how this project flourishes. Or maybe it doesn't. We'll see what the overall growth is of a Dungeons & Dragons brand. But it's not lost on me that perhaps Paramount is trying to forge a new franchise. And of course, they could use, and they've had plenty of successes. I think to some of their other works, maybe not less mentioned, maybe from some of the other stuff familiar to the fictional sci-fi space, but Yellowstone, Top Gun, Mission Impossible. Speaking of Yellowstone, like anything really that Taylor Sheridan has done, he's the main writer behind that show. I'd say one of its principal creators. And he's got a lot of work that he's done with Paramount. I mean, they're in a very tight relationship on a content note, it seems. There are franchises that have paved a path of growth for Paramount to evolve from. But I have come across reports from videos that I've watched and just maybe loose conversation that Paramount may be in dire straits from some of their other larger franchise endeavors, maybe ones that you're more familiar with by name. Let's say, for example, Star Trek and Halo, both series of which Halo's much younger in terms of Paramount's adaptations compared to Star Trek, but both have, let's say, less than flourished under Paramount's recent leadership, or maybe the stewardship of those series. Like, I've not heard good regard really across the board for anything from the Star Trek line for the most part. Maybe if there is, it's not as well known of a show. Though, again, I have yet to watch those myself. I'm more of a Star Wars guy. I'm not as big of a Trekkie. I've enjoyed, the main films that come out in the recent couple of years, and I have watched a couple episodes of Next Generation, but I've never really gone into Star Trek on a deep note. But I am very familiar with fan regard. Paramount has a wide library of franchise or currently standing franchises or emerging franchises, but it's a varied space in regards to their acceptance. Dungeons & Dragons is the newest entry, and I do think on a first impression, what was given through was it a Comic-Con trailer? It was a good first look. Very enticing, good VFX work, strong performances, beautiful realization, great cast. Chris Pine, I'm a big fan of. Sophia Lillis really impressed me. I'm a big fan of what she did with the It movies, the first chapter especially. She's such a good actress, and she's in this. I'm very excited to see her talents, as well as many of her stars I'm familiar with cross paths in this movie. Hugh Laurie's in this, Michelle Rodriguez. But I'm curious to see, though, if the Dungeons & Dragons brand, I'm sure it could be expanded quite profoundly with Paramount. I could see spin-off projects, I could see streaming, accompaniments, video game entries even. Dungeons & Dragons, even somebody who's never been versed in the franchise or the role, it's a role-playing game, right? I'm familiar with it being like a Stranger Things allegory, that's about it. That's like my genuine level of, exploration of the project. I have, looked into the construction of it from a perception standpoint, speaking as a Christian. I know that in circles pertaining to my faith, it's not necessarily spoken of as a game very fondly, although I do like to present an informed opinion. So I can't say in my experience, though, that I'm familiarized with the game, but I have looked into conversations surrounding it. And perhaps maybe you're somebody in the same boat, like, well, I've heard, a mixture of perspective on Dungeons & Dragons, too. Most of it tends to err towards the negative. I would say if you're interested in consulting perhaps an informed opinion, I shared this article before as well previously, I'm going off memory here. Was it off I think it was Geeks Under Grace. Good site, whatever it was, that might be the wrong name. I'll reference it here in post. Good informed opinion if you want to consult. I would say an informed perspective like I did. I'm looking at this again from a perspective of I'm very familiarized with the talent, and the VFX work was good. The realization of perhaps another burgeoning sci-fi property gave a strong foundation, at least in the teaser. And we don't have another trailer yet. I think this comes out again it comes in the new year. Oh, March. There's a lot of movies coming out in March. Like, big picture. March is quickly becoming a big year. Like, 65's coming out. Well, speaking of Paramount, Scream is also debuting at some point. Scream 6. Wow, it's becoming quite a loaded month. We'll see how it fares in regards to spacing of different movies, but I think there's grounds for perhaps Dungeons & Dragons to succeed and perhaps forge a way forward for Paramount to have a successful franchise, given this film is serviceable enough to meet fan expectations. Although I've also heard, in passing, again, like I said, I'm not really an engaged fan of Dungeons & Dragons because of my limited exploration or lack thereof. In all honesty, I have come across reports, though, from channels I've followed, maybe headlines, that there's a varied perspective among fan bases with the current state. Let's see what happens. I think in terms of the film, though, it was a good first initial look. let's see what this featurette has to offer. Again, we haven't had anything new for this movie. This is just something limited to go on, but it's something. And plus, I love to look at featurettes to get the behind-the-scenes perspective. It's another way to enjoy the art.
Dungeons & Dragons is that classic hero's journey about a ragtag group of misfits. Where we have to fight dragons and evil wizards in order to save the world.
So how do we pull that off? Figure it out over a drink?
Probably best.
It's about finding your own hero within. And each character...
It's an engaging fantasy release, familiar setups, a lot of familiar elements, but enticing.
I make plans. I will not be complicit in the illicit use of ill-gotten booty.
Can someone else right next to this guy?
There's a wicked sense of humor through this, and that allows us to have as much fun with this as we can.
Keep still.
I'm glad he's on our side.
The nuances that each individual actor brings is what makes this film so great.
This I give you now, trusting that you'll protect it with your very life. I will. Hold this.
See, I think this looks quite charming.
Thieves.
Or not Hugh Laurie, Hugh Grant. Did I say Hugh Laurie earlier? I think I did. Whoops.
The Dungeons & Dragons world has amazing creatures. In this one, I think they outdid themselves.
I would agree.
Insane. You really can tell they put a lot into this.
And the transformations are seamless. Like, that's Sophia Lillis's...
This is
See,
just big,
her transformation, I think it's exquisite.
It's a great adventure, the characters that you're going to care about.
We want to give them the movie that they've been hoping for. That's what I've been saying!
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Again, I wonder, and it'll probably be accessible to anybody, right? I wonder because I don't have the background of experience with the Dungeons & Dragons lore. So if I were to go watch this, which I will eventually, I believe, I'm enticed enough to watch it as it is. The VFX work I think is great. And to see it experiment as another franchise builder, I think really is the interesting position of question for somebody like me, who is approaching this from a novice lens. I'm not experienced with lore, so I'm interested to see perhaps how accessible it is for somebody like me. Do I have to have experience playing the game, or can I go into this fresh? I would imagine, with Paramount's mindset, the mindset of the creators, wanting to engage the widest amount of fans possible, that's going to be a consideration that they make. I think this looks pretty good, though, for a first impression. And again, this is just a featurette, right? This isn't another official trailer. The first teaser was loaded in regards to its first presentation. I was very elated by it. Quite extensive in its coverage, but sufficient, right? It didn't feel as much like an early days. It felt like this is an actual, main trailer. And it might have been. Maybe, sometimes I forget the trailer designation. Maybe it was a main trailer. Or based on the time frame, it was like a San Diego Comic-Con trailer. But I'm assuming it never will come out, of course, closer to the debut date of the film. Probably around the Super Bowl time frame. I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe sooner than that. On initial look, it was quite good. And I figured going forward it would be as well. So there's sufficient quality in the presentation to entice me. I'm just curious again to see how open it is in engagement, right? And how much of an audience it can pull in. I'm sure it's going to probably pull in, long-time D&D fans. I would not be surprised at all about that. Or perhaps people who are just like, hey, I saw this game off Stranger Things. And that's the only knowledge that I have. Other than, maybe research and reading into points of view on the game, like I have, with the article I broadcast previously. It looks good, though. Again, the cast is really the main draw for me, and to see if this is a sustainable franchise foundation for Paramount. Again, they've got plenty. I'm curious to see, though, if this will be a strong debut for them, and how best it will set into the March season. That's quickly becoming loaded, with adjacent Paramount releases as well. How will this fare? And what is the release date specifically? I don't think they mentioned it in this video. They just said March. I forget exactly when it's coming out in terms of the date. I'll look later. But wherever it's space, maybe it'll come out after. Maybe they're all coming out March 10th. No, they would not double book a Paramount picture. That's not going to happen. I mean, that's what they did for 65 and Scream 6, even though 65 is Paramount. No, it's not Paramount. It's Sony. it's quickly becoming quite a loaded month. I saw this more as like a summer picture, but okay, we'll see how it fares in March. What are your guys' thoughts, though, of Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves? Let me know down below. I think it looks, if you feel so inclined, I think it looks good. You know, again, this is a featurette. I do like, you know, sometimes when it comes to featurettes, not everybody covers these things, but for me, I like to get that better impression of the artistic mindset of the crew and the actors involved. I like to see that appreciation put in focus of the craft's materialization. It's not a trailer, but it's something to go on. So as we wait for whatever that'll be, I'm assuming, because this came out pretty recently, it'll be soon we get something else. I'll take another look at it, but so far I think it looks pretty good. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.